changed the platform, moved from StreamYard a couple of weeks ago to Restream, a recommendation by a number of people, first and foremost Richard Moore. So thank you, Richard, for the recommendation. And Restream means I don't have to have complicated setups. I've got everything streaming from one platform to Facebook, to LinkedIn, and to YouTube. So I'm on all three of those channels at the moment. I don't think there's an Instagram channel, but I'm on those three. So what are we going to talk about this week? So it's an opportunity to check in on the week's activities, but also if there's anybody online that would like to comment, say hi, ask a question, be part of the stream, let me know. I'd love to hear from you on Facebook and on LinkedIn and on YouTube if you're there. There's a number of things I want to talk about that are interesting at the moment. One of which I'll start with an initiative that I've got involved in by a group based originally in Essex that's been expanding out over the last few years, a group called Walk and Talk for Men. And the whole idea of the group, I guess it's a series of groups around the country, is that on a regular basis, a group of men will meet up on a Sunday or an evening during the week. And under the current circumstances, there's social distancing in place and just a bit of common sense around making sure that the interactions aren't putting anybody at risk. So kind of keeping a safe and secure environment. But groups of men tend to kind of 10 to 15 at a time will meet up and kind of partner up one-to-one and just spend an hour or so walking and talking, just being able to clear their minds, get things off their chest, talk to somebody in confidence about maybe what's going on in their lives. And good friend of mine, Nigel Rutter, launched a group in Birmingham a while back, and he meets once a month, and it's just kind of inspired me. I thought, you know what, that's something that will really make a difference to people, and if I can get involved, then I'd love to do that. So I've got a group starting. So anybody who's in the Cambridgeshire area who might be interested, if you know somebody that might be interested, just drop me a direct message. I'm going to be starting it in March, so it'll be a Sunday morning, and there is a beautiful spot in St Neots called Little Paxton, where I moved to recently, and there is a nature reserve there called Little Paxton Pits Nature Reserve, and it's a really, really beautiful spot. That's where I'm planning to kind of host and chair the walks. We'll spend maybe 60, 90 minutes on a Sunday morning, go for a walk, give people the opportunity just to talk, catch up, meet new people, and you know, if it's appropriate, just kind of talk through situations that they might be going through in life, because a lot of people finding our current situation difficult. And I know personally I have good days and I have days where it's more difficult, and I think we all experience that. And on a personal level at the moment, we moved house, my wife and I moved house in January, so it's about 6 weeks ago, and we're having some work done on the house, and I'm working from home, and had plumbers and electricians and tilers in this week, and heating engineers, and it's amazing how that can just disrupt your working patterns, so that you just have to really focus in when you get the chance to get some quiet time. It's actually the reason I'm a little bit late today. They didn't leave until just after 5, and I thought there's quite a bit of banging, sawing, drilling stuff going on. And I ran a session with a client today, and asked them if they could just kind of try and focus on jobs that weren't so noisy during that session. So that meant that it all kicked off immediately after I finished. But we can all feel a little bit disturbed and disrupted at the moment. And if you're feeling that, then best, in my experience, one of the best things to do is just reach out to people, have conversations. It can be really powerful, can be really helpful for you. So I'm delighted to be starting up that group. It's completely free. It's kind of part of the contribution, giving back to other people who may find themselves in situations I've been in the past, just trying to help out where I can. So that's good. The other thing I wanted to talk about was I did a post this week on personal development. I have signed up this year to a full year's program on, I guess it's entrepreneurship and developing my personal brand as a key person of influence. There's a program by someone I admire greatly, a guy called Daniel Priestley, and his business partner and co-founder in the Dent business, Glenn Carlson. They run this program called Key Person of Influence, the KPI program. So it's a full year program. I've signed up. It's quite a big investment of time and resources, but it's going to be a really interesting program as they take us through the proven formula to build out a business, build out a team, build out your brand, and leverage 5 key principles to become a key person of influence. So I will let you know how I get on as I go through that program. Maybe these lives will become perhaps a sharing of some of the key insights that I'm gaining. Having worked through the initial program, it's got me really revisiting some of the key fundamentals in my business, the vision for my business, the mission and the purpose, and thinking about the origin story. Where did I start out? How does that inform the work that I do? And how does it help my clients today? Because very often we sit on so much value through our experiences, knowledge, and the work that we've done over the years that we can sometimes overlook just how valuable that is for other people who haven't perhaps had those same experiences or the benefit of some of the failures that we've experienced. And every successful person, no matter how you look at it, they will have experienced a number of failures to get to that successful position. It's almost not possible to get there without trial and error and failure. And when you look back on those failures, there's some of the most important lessons in your life. And I know, speaking from personal experience, lots of those along the way. So yeah, I'll be sharing some of that as I walk through the program, and hopefully that'll be useful for you and give you some insights yourselves. I'd love to hear if anybody's online at the moment. Anybody's got any questions, any comments? Do feel free to let me know. I can share your comments on the Restream platform. So if you've got anything you'd like to share, do speak up or drop me a note on here. If you want to DM me, then please do. I very often get questions kind of one-to-one or through group sessions, people asking about principles in the book, principles in the program, more recently, the scorecard. So I'd love to just kind of recap on that as a series of products or an ecosystem of products. So the way I see it actually is that I'm trying to build out a series of valuable assets within the business that will support my clients more effectively as we work together over time. And the first starting point now for interactions tends to be for sales teams, sales professionals, and sales leaders to a certain extent, is this kind of discovery principle. How do you discover your sales and influencing ability or score? And there's a scorecard that I've developed, which is a series of 46 statements, and you simply score yourself against those statements, and then that platform then generates a score for you, so you can see in 5 key areas of sales how well you are performing based on your own self-assessment. And once you've got that score, it then points you to resources within the Focus for Growth asset library that will really help. So Sam has asked, I'm curious, Sam, great to see you. Thank you for joining us for the live discussion. Sam on LinkedIn. Sam said, I'm curious, how do you use the scorecard in your practice? So it's a great question, Sam. Thank you for asking it. The scorecard is about self-awareness. And so there's a couple of ways in which I'm using it. One is as a vehicle for customers to be able to self-assess and give themselves this greater awareness of where they may need to focus. So just that awareness itself creates a drive or a motivation towards an area where they might want to work more deliberately and more intentionally. The second is that when I work with group sales teams, we can then start to aggregate the data and look at the needs of a team. So if there were common areas where teams might need to focus through that self-assessment process, then the scorecard or the score app would start to drive that through a collection of data and consolidation of scores, so that we can start to build out a program that's much more, strategic and objective, rather than subjective and tactical. So it gives customers a bit more data and insights. And I think that what that does for me and my business, Sam, gives me greater clarity on where I can focus and support the customers, more effectively. And that has been valuable, even in the early discussions that I'm having with customers that have run through it. And then I run, so that's with individual or client teams. I then also run a sales mastery program, which is an online program that gives people training and development specifically in sales and influencing, and takes them through the 3 key models: lead generation model, preparation model, and then the sales process model. And if you look at the work that online program does, actually to start with a scorecard, so that somebody can complete a scorecard, understand, okay, if I'm going to work through this program content, where should I really invest the most time? Where should perhaps I slow down and go deeper into key principles? Because I find myself as well, actually, as well as clients, we tend to try and address everything in a broad manner, and actually there's real value in going deep into certain areas. So I hope that helps, Sam. I hope that's useful. Thank you for the question. Great question. I would say if you're, depending on your business, if you're looking for that kind of mechanism, like a score app or a scorecard, there's a great platform. So I built mine in the platform called Score App, and it's spelt as it sounds, SCOREAPP. Scoreapp.com. Just Google it and you'll be able to see. And you basically you have to do the work, build the questions, build the content, the structure, but it creates the foundation, the platform, and the framework to host the data, host the questions, the links, the landing page. It's very good. It's very good. And the data you can get from it subsequently is useful as well. So thanks, Sam. Great question. So that the scorecard becomes almost the trigger point for customers to be able to gain that greater self-awareness and then inform us on where we should prioritize development. So from there, we go to the resources and assets. As you know, the first resource and asset I always recommend is the book, because the book covers every part of the model. So for me, it's the kind of go-to resource. The challenge, I guess, with books, and I'm guilty as charged, is that we can read them and not apply them. So awareness by itself is not a cure. It can sometimes motivate us into action, but we really need to go beyond just theory and get into practice. How do we apply what we've learned, rather than just read about it and ruminate? Reading and ruminating doesn't give us the results we're looking for. We've got to take action. And sometimes just having a book that we read doesn't give us what we need. So we have to go beyond that. Thank you, Sam. I'm glad that was useful for you. So book is the first port of call, good for context, good for absorption of key principles. And then beyond that, what I would recommend is, online programs, certainly for sales mastery, thinking about, okay, how do we make sure we cover all of the core content, so that, because sometimes we have blind spots, sometimes there are things we don't know. And if you don't know something, then very difficult to fix it without some kind of external intervention. You do get that from the Score app. But even some of the deeper mastery content in the sales mastery program will share principles that people don't even realize are gaps for them. Things like the classic one for me is, and I come back to it over and over again with clients, is listening. The amount of clients who don't recognize that they're not listening, or don't recognize that there is a deeper way to listen and to really connect either with their teams or with their customers through more comprehensive listening principles and techniques. And there are some really useful principles that you can adopt if you can get those listening skills in place. So just gives you that additional depth to a relationship. So the program becomes a vehicle for kind of teaching some of those principles that perhaps are blind spots for people. And then beyond that, there is one-to-one or bespoke group or individual programs that kind of inform and roll off the back of the Sales Mastery program. As part of that Sales Mastery program, if anybody is interested, if you know anybody that's in sales, business development, or sales leadership, and you're looking for sales training, the great thing about that program is not only the online content, but then group coaching calls that go along with it. So once a month, we'll meet as a program group, and it's a mastermind discussion. So people bring specific topics, specific questions, specific areas of focus, priorities, and we workshop them as a group. So I lead and facilitate that group discussion, but actually there's a lot of experience in the room or in the virtual room, and bringing that experience together to really share concepts, principles, and ideas can be so powerful. One of the guys that's on that program, a guy called Tim Barrow, every time at the end of every session, he says, here's what I'm going to do. I've got this and this and this. So he comes out with his list of specific actions and insights that he's gained. And just the transformation in Tim and the other guys that are part of the program, their adoption of the principles has been really, really rewarding to see. So that kind of almost completes the loop. And then the final part to the loop for me is having a plan for your professional development. And that is as simple as there are two principles here, but the first one is as simple as identifying, one thing at a time. What's the one area you're working on right now? How are you going to build that into your working rhythm, into your working weeks and days, so that there's this continual focus on it? Once you master that one thing, what's the next one after that? And what's the next one after that? And just complement these in layers, so that we're continually looking at individual key areas for progress and development. And that can be so powerful when we take that simple step-by-step approach. The second principle for development for me is the long-range kind of visionary plan for yourself. And I really do like to think about identity. What's the identity that I want to create for myself in the future? So that may be a career position, it may be a business position, it may be a lifestyle choice, it may be some changes you want to make personally and professionally, but really setting out the clarity of the direction of travel. What is the person I want to become? And that becomes your strategic development. So where am I headed? What do I like? What don't I like? What future aspirations do I want to achieve? What are the skills I have? And so you can start to build that out. I've got a couple of really nice templates. One that I call a development action plan, which is the short range key actions that you'll take and how to track it. The second is what I call a strategic development plan that looks longer term, thinks holistically about how you want to operate in your role or your business, and just starts to get you to think differently about the work that you're doing on yourself rather than in your business. So strategic development and development actions. And that completes the loop, because once you've mapped those out, they take you right the way back round to, okay, how do I assess where I am, monitor my progress, and almost start that cycle again. So that tends to be for sales professionals. And then above that, I then have sales leadership. So very often people who are high performers in their roles go on to aspire to the next level. For sales professionals, business development professionals, that tends to be a sales leadership position. I know it's very often said, well, just because you're a good salesperson doesn't make you a good leader. It's absolutely true. And if I was, harsh and honest with myself, for the first year or so of my sales leadership career, I would say that was true. I was not, just because I was a good salesperson didn't make me a good sales leader, even though it's what I wanted. It took me some time to build new muscle in that area, to gain new insights, to start to recognize what leadership really was and start to perform in that role. So yeah, these things happen. Sometimes we have to learn as we go. We have to build the bridge as we walk along it, as they say. And so I've done that myself. But we move from sales contribution, sales performance, to sales leadership. And that next model is the same. So we start, I'm building it at the moment, we start with a score up. So we'd start with a diagnostic assessment. Where are we in our leadership capability for sales leadership specifically? And then once we've completed that assessment, we then say, right, okay, if that's where I am operating, what are the resources I need to start to, one, work on the development areas? What's the holistic kind of frame of reference? So there is a book in the writing. So there'll be a book as a resource for that. And then beyond that, there'll be a program. So the program actually is in place. It's solid. So I have a full coaching program for sales leaders that is about how they plan for those interactions with their teams. So making sure that there's an ongoing plan for the sales leader. Very often we as leaders, we want our teams to plan, but we have to role model that. So if we don't have a plan for how we work with our teams, very difficult for us to then expect them to have a plan for how they work with their customers. So we have to role model that planning principle. It's so important. And so the plan's in place, and there's a really nice principle for developing kind of planning for sales leadership and sales teams. And then we move into, there's a model I have called Coach. So in the sales model, it's called Inspire. In the coaching model, it's called Coach. And I won't tell you the steps. You'll have to call me if you want the steps. Let me know if you'd like the steps. If you would like the steps for the Coach model or the Inspire model, then let me know and I'll gladly send you like an intro video for them. So Coach model. And once we have the program in place, then, from there we can go to some of the group masterminds. I run a group mastermind for my clients at the moment. A monthly session is actually tomorrow morning at 8:30 is the monthly group client mastermind. So there's masterminds that help embed these programs or embed the skills and the principles that we need to learn. And then we move on to, one-to-one sessions, leadership development, coaching, as alongside the mastermind groups, because we can get really good experience from that group session, from hearing other people talk about their own experiences. And then if we go one-to-one into deeper conversations, slow everything down, give our cognitive thinking brain a rest and let the unconscious mind start to surface, then we can really get some new, fresh, deeper insights into what really is going to drive results for us and our teams. So that's the one-to-one sessions. And then finally, strategic and personal development plans. So ensuring that as leaders, we have plans for ourselves to grow, because we can't expect that of our teams if we don't role model it. So it's having the plan in place that then joins everything up, and away we go. So they're kind of product ecosystems as I see them. There's a final one that I'm working on, which is business leadership, which would follow the sales leadership coaching model, but would be for more entrepreneurial or leadership development rather than specifically looking at sales. So it would be business teams, broader P&L management, the key principles of running a business, which obviously has more moving parts to it than the purest sales management or sales leadership function. So they're the three layers that I'm working on in terms of the business and the programs that we run. So I'll share those with you because it's good to get it clarified. Even in my own mind, the more I'm able to kind of share the insights, talk about it, it clears it up for me and also helps customers to get clearer on the value proposition from the organization and the programs. And to talk about leadership and entrepreneurship, it's interesting. I'm working with Alex Hughes, my good friend Alex, out on a podcast. So Alex runs a podcast called Get Shift Done. And it is about, action orientation, building businesses, entrepreneurship, talking with some really interesting people. And I've joined Alex for series 2, and we're exploring a principle that's really quite interesting. It's this principle of leadership and entrepreneurship and how we can blend the two. Alex coming at it very much from the entrepreneur's point of view, having founded businesses, having multiple businesses under his kind of leadership or stewardship, and being very entrepreneurial in his outlook and his action, and my past history being more leadership based, so leading large business teams, working for big businesses. And when I set my own business up, I know that one of the things I had to do was really try and flex my entrepreneurial muscle and really lean into the entrepreneurial space. So we've got this principle of leadership, entrepreneurship, and we've kind of coined this phrase called the leaderpreneur. How do you blend the best of leadership principles, leadership philosophy and action with entrepreneurship. So leadership and entrepreneurship. How do you blend the two? One is quite agile, is flexible, is dynamic, is really pace setting in the approach, the entrepreneurship, whereas leadership is more of a coaching style. It's perhaps more structured, more organized. And how do you make sure that the two of those can coexist and give you, access to what you need to really grow and scale a business? So that's going to be an ongoing discussion as we go through this series 2 of Alex's podcast. We've recorded the first couple of episodes, and they'll be airing soon. So I'll tell you more about those as we start to explore it all. And then finally, I wanted to talk about Australia. So I've had a couple of experiences with Australian either customers or associations recently, and I didn't realise just how big the time gap was. It's like an 11-hour time difference between the UK and Australia, depending on where you are in Australia. Actually, it's more than that in some regions, because it's this time of year, and as the clocks go forward here, they go back in Australia, so the time difference moves to 9 hours instead of 11. But I was on a call this morning with someone from the UK and someone from Australia, and I shall have a repeat call tomorrow in the same situation. And then I've been contacted on Facebook by someone who's also in the KPI program that is from Australia. So I'll be having a call with Australia next week. And I'm also I've been talking to the Australian Dental Industry Association. I ran a webinar for them recently. And so my Australian connections are coming in. It's interesting. So I'd love to know if you're in Australia, if you'd like to get involved, if you'd like me to speak, or if you've got any insights that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. I would, and at some point, I'm going to plan a trip to Australia. So I'm just kind of lining it up now. I'm just kind of putting the intention out there and the invitation to my network and contacts in Australia. I would love to join you at some point to be on an Australian trip. It's a part of the world I've never been to, and I'd love to explore. So I thought I'd drop that in at the end. I may mention it on a regular basis just to see what happens, because there's something about intention. The more intentional we are about things, the more we attract them. So let's see if that works for a trip to Australia. Okay, guys, I am at coming up to 5:45. So I've been on for half an hour. I am going to leave it there unless anybody's got any final comments or questions. Thank you, Sam, so much for your engagement on LinkedIn. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone could hear me loud and clear on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'll check both the live streams afterwards just to make sure that it all worked. I will be here again next Thursday, live at 5. So if there's anything you would like me to cover, any questions, any comments, any content, any insights, any failures, I'm happy to share it all. I'll bear all on these live discussions. So yeah, get in touch if there's anything you'd like me to cover. And in the meantime, stay safe. Have a fabulous weekend when you finish tomorrow. And I look forward to seeing you all next Thursday, where I'll be live at 5. Have a great